When I think about why to break the bias, I think about the importance of diversity. And I always come back to an analogy I heard in a podcast when the original interviewee was talking about diversity in Silicon Valley, called "Where Do You Keep the Ketchup?" To paraphrase the analogy and contextualise it in an Australian context, where do you keep the tomato sauce? If you live, say, in Darwin, for example, you would probably keep the tomato sauce in the fridge. But perhaps you live in Hobart, you keep it in the cupboard. Why does that matter? Well, it matters when you run out of the tomato sauce. What do you reach for next? If you keep it in the fridge, perhaps you might reach for the mayonnaise. But if you keep it in the cupboard, it might be the box of gravy that you go for to make up next. It is what you think of next to the tomato sauce is what is important in the analogy. The more diverse our backgrounds, the more associations you get, and the more paths to solving the problem. How do we effectively solve problems if everyone has the same point of view? When we start to think about how that's important in architecture and urban design, I start to think about the following points. A man cannot understand how a woman navigates a city. In the same way, an able-bodied person cannot understand how it is for a person with a disability to navigate a city. A heterosexual cannot understand how an LGBTQIA person navigates a city. A white Australian cannot understand how an immigrant views their new city or how an Indigenous person views country. A person with privilege cannot understand how a homeless person tries to get by in a city. We cannot presume to understand, as empathy only takes you so far. Hearing these voices and interacting with these people can enrich our lives. It's okay to be wrong about past perceptions, but to move forward, we need to be open to the possibilities, allow ourselves to grow and to learn about other people's experiences, understand their point of view. Our most important role as an architect is to listen. Are we doing the best job we can if we don't allow every voice to have their say, share their perspectives? So where do we start? Recruitment processes. Are you really hiring the best person for the job? Do you need an outside hire? Is the right candidate already working for you? Who are the women around you that can also inform change? When making these important systemic changes, who do you have at the table? If it's the same leadership team who got you to where you are, is it adequately going to evolve to where it needs to be? When appointing the next person in the leadership group, first think about what leaders you aspire to have, and then find the person that meets those aspirations. It is necessary to understand the difference between leaders that are perceived to be good and those that are actually good. When creating and designing important projects, who is informing the initial decisions? We know it is not always possible to have everyone involved, but when are you pausing and ensuring those voices get included? Throughout history, pandemics have created a reset. Let's take the pandemic to be the change and break the bias. Architecture might be a slow profession due to the nature of our projects taking a long time. That doesn't mean our decisions around bias need to be slow. We can make change, or rather, be that change now.
Before I begin, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land where I live and work, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Gumji Kang, and I'm an architect based in Melbourne with a multidisciplinary studio centre, and I have also served as Victorian Chapter's Emerging Architect and Graduates Network as a co-chair. I'm really happy to be adding to this important discussion for International Women's Day with the theme Break the Bias. Breaking the bias begins with acknowledging our own bias and understanding where they lie. Of course, we understand the unconscious associations, and it's not always intentional and controllable. While we might like to believe that we're not susceptible to biases, we should accept that we're constantly dealing with them, whether we're cognizant or not. We have dealt with too many times, and how many times have we been frustrated by others who have assumed and defined the view on ourselves, hitting the brick wall or glass ceiling? Looking around, we have a network of amazingly capable and competent designers and architects. However, we may lack support and that connection in the immediate surrounding. This is especially true of us who are just starting out in the industry, many who lack support and network. 2022, we look ahead, looking to extend our horizon. We provide space and opportunity for the aspiring designers and architects to reach out to us so we can make that connections together and break the bias. Come connect with us, with the emerging architects and graduates, reconnect with your university, offer to provide opportunities to the wider network. There are many tangible ways to help and contribute in breaking the bias. Bias is the pattern, bias is a silent wall that we have all been building ourselves. We respect diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we must break the bias, the pattern, in order to move forward. This International Women's Day theme, Break the Bias, once again invites us to take action beyond our words. So let's take time to pause and reflect and take one step at a time. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be speaking today as I feel passionately about women in architecture. I have been privileged to have had a varied education, which has included spending time living and studying in Northern Europe. This experience has enhanced my appreciation of the differences in the workplace. As architects and design professionals, we reflect on human behaviour and people's responses in the spaces we create. Good design responds to the needs of diverse groups, and consequently, a more diverse team has greater potential to connect and respond to different perspectives. Research indicates that this produces more innovative solutions. As a female, I see how diversity and leadership can flourish when it's encouraged through support and mentoring. I have been fortunate to have the support of many dynamic role models. Statistics reveal that women make up almost half of architectural graduates, yet occupy less than 20% of executive and board positions. Why is this? There are many interrelated issues at play. Two key thoughts relate to underlying structural issues and gender bias. There can be limited pathways existing for women who wish to re-enter the workforce. Often there are perceptions and attitudes which prevent them from promotion and obtaining leadership roles. Thinking in a different way about the structures of work could assist addressing this problem. Other organisations have embraced interesting solutions. As an example, the role of general manager at the ACCC has been shared between two people, 3 days each with a day of overlap. I could see how this model of sharing work could equally apply to women returning to the workforce. Research indicates that many men are also interested in roles which have greater flexibility. One of the positive impacts of COVID is that it has challenged notions of where we need to be to work, and there is an opportunity to build on this by reconsidering how we manage workflow. Increased participation of women in senior and strategic roles would enable them to make a greater contribution to the urban landscape. Historically, women have had a minimal role in the planning of cities. Buildings and cities have a profound impact of the quality of people's lives, enhancing or restricting a sense of belonging and security. What would our cities look like if they were designed by women? A more representative female voice and experience would bring with it substantial practical benefits. For example, women have a heightened sense of awareness when walking at night. Female designers and architects are inherently conscious of the importance of lighting for the purposes of enhancing safety, consistent with their lived experience. Another example is in the design of buildings, where women are more likely to be aware of the needs to plan spaces for parenting and breastfeeding. More diversity in the senior design process will lead to a more active discussion of possible considerations and configurations. A broad range of opinions is also crucial in forming a sense of community and addressing economic inequality. The aging population, high cost of housing, and profound gap in wealth accumulation between men and women across their lifetimes is leading to increasing inequality. Women over 55 years old are now the fastest growing group of homeless people in Australia. A significant pay gap still exists in the field of architecture. The pattern is of a pay gap across almost every level of experience, with the greatest disparity shown at the experienced associate and experienced director level. This is partly due to the lack of transparency around pay. Lack of transparency is a veil which allows unconscious bias to persist and thrive. This could be addressed through transparency of bands of pay which relate to achievement levels. Typically, in management consulting firms, which are very commercial entities, the salary bands are well known within organisations and apply equally to men and women. Other benefits to having transparent wage structures include improving societal awareness of how architects are undervalued. In time, advocacy may help then ensure architects are properly remunerated for their expertise. When we look at the data, it is easy to be disheartened, but events like today allow us to talk more openly about the issues that need to be resolved and that leaders are taking steps towards change. Opportunities for improved accessibility and increased social cohesion can only lead to greater happiness and mental well-being. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.